Okay, today I want to make a generative Krell music type patch in Reaktor. A little while back I made one of these in Pure Data, and so if you want more information about what a Krell music generator is, you can check that out. For today, I'll just say that this is a kind of generative music algorithm pioneered by Todd Barton, based off of Bebe Baron's score for the 1956 film Forbidden Planet. Now, I actually don't do that much algorithmic music in Reaktor. I tend to write my generative programs in Max or PD, and then use Reaktor for the sound design, rather than generating the music. So this was a good experience for me, and honestly, it might be a good way to get started in doing this kind of thing in Reaktor. I want to acknowledge too that in the Reaktor user library, there's a Krell music generator posted by Barry Galloway that sounds great, and is way more sophisticated than what I'm gonna make today. I recommend checking that out too if you're interested. I'll link it in the description. Anyway, the basic idea here is we want something that will play a note, then automatically trigger the next note when it's done. And when it triggers the next note, it randomizes the next note's pitch, length, timbre, and envelope. Now, if you've been following along, I've mentioned that the 5 characteristics of sound are pitch, volume, timbre, duration, and spatial location. And so right away, we've now randomized 4 out of those 5 characteristics of sound. And honestly, we could add a little bit of panning this to randomize the spatial location as well. We'll see if we have time. Okay, so I just have a new ensemble here in Reaktor. Let's delete our inputs. And let's start by adding a sine oscillator and an AR envelope, attack and release. So we know we can put together a keyboard-controlled patch by doing a note pitch MIDI in, putting a gate here. Let's just do a constant for this. Multiply. Create control, create control. Clean up my panel. Okay. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense. If you're confused about anything here, I'll link some videos that can get you caught up. But the idea is we've got our sine wave oscillator. We're multiplying it by our envelope, which when it's 0, it's just 0, so there's no sound. And then when we hit a key, our envelope goes up and then comes back down. So now what we want to do is we want to make a way to do a couple things. First, we want to make a way for us to randomize these different inputs, like the pitch and the attack and the release. And then also we need a way that when this envelope is done, we re-trigger things. So maybe we can start with that re-triggering. Let's start by adding compare. Now, this took me ages, but I was thinking, okay, well, if I put in this, what this does is when it's less than or equal to what I put in B, so let's say if that's 0, right? If it's less than or equal to B, then I can send out this trigger that can re-trigger that gate. But what I found was it needs to be 0.000, I don't know how many zeros I want to put in, but a whole bunch of zeros, 1, or else it doesn't work. Now, those of you who are more experienced with doing this kind of thing in Reaktor, maybe you can tell me why, but that's how I got it to work, right? Now we can add an A to E to convert it into an event. And then feed it back on itself. Now, of course, that attack isn't really working because it's not holding it down for the right amount of length, but we'll get to that. Okay, so now we need some way of randomly picking a number. So let me do it this way. Let's make a new macro and let's call this random -1 to 1. Let's put an input, which is going to be a trigger, and then an output. And what we're going to do is we're going to use an LFO, which isn't really a random number, I know. But we can get some interesting behaviors from it. So I'm going to take that LFO, I'm going to run it there, and then what this is going to do, this sample and hold is just going to freeze that LFO at a value when it gets that trigger in. Create constant, create constant. Let's make this LFO very slow. Then we might even do an A2. So now we're taking that point of the LFO whenever we're getting a trigger and sending that out. And what I want to do with that is I want to send it to this note pitch. But the problem, again, this is -1 to 1. So we need to think about some math. Now, I'm going to do this the range of the piano again. So again, -1 to 1. I'm going to multiply that by 44. So I'm going to have -44 to 44. Okay, constant. And then I'm going to add, I want to add 65. -1 is the lowest thing that comes out. -1 times 44 is going to be -44. Plus 65 is going to be 21. 1 is the highest number that comes out. 1 times 44 is 44. 44 plus 65 is 109. So that's about the range of my piano keyboard. Okay, let's send this back in there and send this into here. And now we've got it sending random notes. Now I've just realized I probably want an AD envelope here instead of an AR envelope. So I'm going to make a horrible sound for just 1 second here. I mean, that was kind of an amazing sound, but I don't have that running to the retrigger. Okay, let's randomize that attack and decay. So in order to make this slightly more random, I should put in a different number here. So I'm just mashing on the keyboard there, but this LFO now moves at a different rate than the other one, and so it's going to be independent of that one. Now, my attack, what's the range I want here? 0 to 80, okay, so -1 to 1. Let's multiply it by 40 and add 40. Let's add 41. Because we never really want it to be 0. So I'm just replacing that. 40, 41. Go to this one. 0.02. Again, mashing the keyboard. Run that one. Run this one to my decay. Come on, friend. There we go. Boom. Now, you'll hear that... I'm going to bring this down a hair. There we go. That's a very long one. Maybe I have it slightly too long here. Let's bring these down a bit. Let's bring that to 30, 30, 31, 31. Because when they get to the maximum, those notes are way too long. Now, you'll notice that here the notes, when they get fast, they'll get fast and have a bunch of fast ones in the order, like that. And that's because of the LFO is going. Maybe that's going to be too short. 40. 40. By the way, we'll see. You see how I'm getting all this junk on my panel? Maybe I should click on these, go to View, and make them so that they're not visible. Okay. I thought I had stopped for a second there. Maybe make this one a bit faster. So if you watch my Pure Data video, you know I just did completely random numbers. And now I'm calling these random, but really they're just picking spots in the LFO. So they're not really random. I could make it into noise or something like that if I wanted it to be more random. Or there's even a random oscillator that I could do this with. Like that's too slow. Okay, so once again, we have a random pitch and a random envelope going on, but let's now affect this timbre in a random way. And I'm going to do this with some frequency modulation. So I'm actually going to go back to my Sine oscillator. I'm going to replace this with a Sine FM oscillator. Pitch out. Amplitude. Now, I'm going to move this down, and let's go in here, adjust our LFO. And let's have a sine oscillator here. So this is what's going to be doing the modulation. We've got the pitch control there. Let's make its amplitude the maximum. I'm going to use this one to modulate this, but once again, I know I haven't talked much about FM synthesis in Reaktor before, but we need a modulation index. Exp. I'm going to change this pitch into a frequency, multiply the sine by that frequency, and then use that to modulate. Okay, this is starting to sound pretty awesome. Oh, let's do that thing I like to do and go into my utilities and blocks. Once again, this might be in a different place in your program, but let's go and grab our scope. Bink. Probably use a filter here. Built-in module. Filter. Multi-two-pole. Just gonna take this, duplicate it, use this to run our filter. We'll change our LFO rate, right? Make this one pretty fast. Okay, that's all fine. I don't know, give it a bit of resonance for some character. Run in. And And then let's take the band pass out. Oh yeah, and I said we could try to do panning as well. Sorry, I'm running out of space here, I know. Panning, we don't need to multiply by anything, because we can just do that -1 to 1. Pan, stereo pan. In, left, right. Oh, I'm only recording in mono today. Sorry, you're not going to hear any of that. Oh well. Actually, that's bad because it'll just be getting quieter. This is how you would do the pan. I'm going to delete this because, once again, I didn't set up my recording in the right way. Instead of that, let's add a delay here. I'm just going to put that in a macro. In. Out. In. Out. Attenuate it, and then I'm going to feed it back on itself. I got a video about how to make delays. If you're interested, you can check that out, but let's wire this up. Definitely wrote Dealey there. And there we go. A fun little Reaktor generative music maker. I think it sounds pretty good. I think this FM in Reaktor sounds pretty nice. But again, I've called these random, and full disclosure, they're not really random. They're LFOs that are going up and down, and then I'm taking snapshots at them. But since the LFOs are moving at different rates, the snapshots are all happening at different times. And we're gonna get different values to map to all of these different characteristics of sound. Anyway, give it a shot, have some fun. Again, tweak these numbers and you'll get very, very different results. And that's the whole fun of doing something like this. You don't want to make something that sounds exactly like me. And since this is generative, you changing those numbers gives you ownership of that particular generative algorithm that you make. Let me know what you come up with.